Our next speaker, Greg Porretta. My story. My story, Greg Porretta.
I was born with two physical abnormalities. One was life-threatening, the other was life-changing. I was born with underdeveloped lungs. What that means, in the first 6 months of my life, I lived in a kind of incubator under heavy sedation and some very powerful medication. In fact, I still take medicine for my breathing. I was also born with an extra appendage, or what is known as a vestigial tail. Now, about 2% of the world's current population is born this way. That's roughly 12 million people. And what it is an overgrowth of the coccyx area of the vertebra. And this overgrowth usually presents as a kind of tail. Very often it's quite small, inconsequential, and it's removed shortly after the birth of the child. More rarely, this tail can be much longer, with muscle and bone and nerve and function. And this is the kind of tail that I was born with. Now, very early in my life, I realized my parents did not want anyone to know that I had a tail. So they dressed me in loose-fitting clothing, I strapped my tail to my leg, and off I went to nursery school and kindergarten. And it wasn't until I was about 8 or 9 that I came home and I was really upset. And my mother could see I was upset. She said, "Gregory, is everything okay? Did something happen?" And I was just holding it inside and shaking my head, no, until I finally just burst into tears and I said, "Mom, I am tired of hiding who I am. I want everyone to know that I have a tail." And she took my hands and she said, "Okay." And so she altered my clothing so my tail could be out and free and visible. And off I went to school. Now, you can imagine, people were shocked, they were surprised, they were afraid, and of course, laughing, but I didn't care. Because I had spent, up to that point in my life, hiding this very real, very important part of who I was. So, there I was at recess, 2 boys checking out my tail. I said, "Yep, it's my tail." Now, I used to have these rings. And I could do tricks with them. It was kind of a ring toss. I could throw the ring up and catch it with my tail, and I could put the rings on my tail and throw it up and catch them here. I used to put them in my front pocket, fish them out. And I started doing these tricks with these boys, and they were mesmerized. More kids started to join. 1 week, 2 weeks. Every recess I'm doing these tricks. It's not just for the students. Teachers are coming. People are bringing objects. "Hey, can you pick up this bucket?" You know, and I'm picking the bucket up with my tail. And, "Hey, how about this apple?" And I pick the apple. "Yeah, I can get the apple. I got the apple. Can you take a bite out of it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got a bite out of it." Throw the apple up. Everyone was going crazy. It was the most liberating and joyous experience of my life. Finally letting people see my tail and what I could do with it. Now, flash forward 10 years, and I was in an accident. It was at a carnival, and ultimately, my tail was crushed. They rushed me to the ER. They tried to save it, but they did have to remove my tail. They did leave a little piece about this long, and that's about all I can do with it. Now, it wasn't an arm, it wasn't a leg, but it was a part of me. And it took me a very long time before I could get over having lost my tail. Now, flash forward another 10 years, I was on a tour in a show through Sicily and Italy. And I realized I was quite close to this town where my great-grandfather had emigrated from when he was 13 years old from Sicily. I'd heard about this town all my life. I thought, okay, I gotta go to this town. So I take a day off. I have a list of Porrettas. I go to the first house. Porretta, I'm knocking on the door. No one's there. At that moment, this car drives up. It's 2 young women, Lucia and Caterina Porretta. And I explained to them in my broken Italian why I'm there and, you know, could I see their father? And they're looking at me and saying, "Yeah, sure, come on." So they take me to this house. I'm just in time for this afternoon feast. They're all Porrettas. And we start talking and try to figure out who is who I might be related to. And after about 10 minutes, I realize they all have tails. And I explained to them how I used to have a tail and how I lost my tail, and the room went silent. And this old man walks up to me, and he puts his hand on my shoulder, and he says to me with a translator, Gregorio, even though you lost your tail, you will always be a part of this family. He was the sweetest, kindest old man I've ever met. He held my hand, we played cards, we drank grappa, and I took a lot of pictures that afternoon, but I want to show you this one picture I took of Giuseppe Porretta, and here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Giuseppe Porretta. He's the sweetest old man I've ever met, and I'll never forget. It's a contest.